I'm going to introduce you to Chris Goers. He is formerly, I forgot to ask, formerly an IT guy. Was in IT career for a long time in different capacities, which he'll kind of go through. But what got me to reach out to talk to him was IFS, which I'm kind of obsessed about right now. I've known, I mean, I guess, inherently known about IFS personally because of the personal journey I went through, but I didn't know that there was the system available that Dr. Richard Swartz created. So we'll get into that later, a bit later, what specifically Chris does and how he helps people with that. We'll get into that. But first, Chris, kind of, I guess, kind of share your journey, life journey to where now you are an IFS, therapist, coach. I don't know exactly how you call yourself, but yeah, let's get into your history to now.
Sure. I would currently not IFS Practitioner is the name of the
Okay.
title. Practitioner would, if someone's looking for someone to work with them on IFS Practitioner means they're not a certified mental health somewhere along the lines, like they've got a master's degree in mental
All right.
health,
Gotcha.
um, and they're some other type of therapist. So practitioner would mean that life coach, spiritual director, something along. There's other trainings that they have. So I'm an IFS practitioner. We do. That's the power of LinkedIn networking. Is that's how you and I connected. But
Right.
I spent like about a 8 year stint in customer success and sales for IT. So that's how that was just a temporary gig for. But I really appreciate the experience there. Most of my life has been faith-based, working in churches. So that's youth ministry, young adult ministry, adult leading a church. So my biggest background would be pastoral counseling and church leadership, and part of that. So uh, to get to where I got you on IFS is basically coming to a point in my life where I wanted to focus. I just felt led to focus on a particular style of working with individuals and couples in therapy. So I heard as part of that training, like working with, like I have a certification in pastoral sex addiction professional. So
Mm,
knowing how to work with sex addiction through therapy and 12 steps.
mm.
Um, I have personal experience with that. And then, so what, as part of that training, I was introduced to internal family systems. People shorthand that to IFS. And that sounded very intriguing to me. So I tried it first personally, and then that worked so well in my paradigm of faith-based and 12-step wisdom, 12-step principles that I said I need to get that training myself. So for the past few years, I've been doing individuals and couples with internal family systems. So that's it's been incredible to do that. So most of my background, I'd say like 40 years of pastoral counseling background, and
Mm.
then specifically using IFS for the past 3 years. It's been great.
Awesome. Well, let's get into this whole, because we talked before about this. So you said you personally have experience with the, sex addiction part. Can we delve into that specifically, what you kind of went through, if you can share that, and what you essentially encountered with other, specifically, I'm going to guess men, right? Uh,
Mhm.
these issues. We kind of talked a little bit, but let's delve into that a little bit more, and then we'll get into how IFS has helped you with that.
Sure.
Now you're helping others, right? So,
Yeah. So the short story, that's easy to segue both of those things. Short story for pornography addiction. Grew up in a chaotic family. Um, the pornography introduced to me very early on just fit with I can escape the chaos by a consistent feeling I get from the pornography and masturbation. So that started very early, like, let's say 10, 11 years old,
mm,
and quickly took root. So even while I'm then at 16, 17 becoming a Christian, this is the secret side life that I had I didn't tell anybody about
mm,
because well, socially you don't talk about that. Then shame based with my, you know, have a Christ follower, so I'm not going to tell anybody about that either. Even as I get into then realizing I have gifts for youth ministry and helping people with their faith-based walk. So that's still just a secret that I had. I just didn't tell anybody because of the shame involved with that. Until then, I say I got married first year and a half of married, so I was like 26, 27. Realized I've got to do something about this. And then even after trying hard on my own, um, finally came to a point where what 12 steps would say, I realized I was powerless over this lust that I have, and my life is unmanageable. Like I can't control going out to look for this stuff. I can't control taking time. All that was just consuming my every waking moment and the pressure of hiding that from people,
Mm.
including my wife. So I found the answer was through 12-step recovery. That also fit with my Christian beliefs that I'm giving my life over to the care of God. So that fit really well as a way to stop. And even after years, so I could use 12 steps and the principles in there. It found best for me is I found that as a way of life. If I viewed the 12 steps as a way of life of what am I powerless over, what are my fears that I need to give up or resentments that I need to give up, and how do I get the focus off of myself and use the power of community and the power of others to help. Still, there's this underlying sense of shame that even through a variety of counselors, I just couldn't shake. So that even after now being clean from, so that was 30 years ago, getting into recovery. Right now, for our definition of sobriety, it would be no sex with self or anyone outside of marriage.
Mm.
That's 13 years of sobriety for me.
Mm.
And um, I still had this, shame in there, even after just helping others. So if I moved into a city, I'd either look for a meeting to go to, or I would create a meeting. So I'm in the Dallas, Texas area. Started a meeting, and that's when I'd said, like at the beginning, like I found this training that introduced IFS
Mm.
that took care of taking care of the shame that I had because one of IFS's beliefs is there's that we have parts in us and there's no bad parts and all parts are welcome.
Mm.
The first time I heard that, all parts are welcome, no bad parts, I just thought, you don't know my parts. And that's a shame part of me talking. Like, you don't know what I've done, what I've seen, what I've looked at. Like, that's bad. In my head, that's bad. IFS takes care of that by saying that that part of me was trying to help. For
Mm.
example, like growing up, that part of me is trying to help cope with a chaotic family. And there was something constant it found. I know that's a feeling I can count on. So
Mm.
that turned into like, I'm constantly going to go for that. So internal family system says, how can I work with that part of me to say, yeah, I get what you're trying to do, trying to help. So I don't have to think about any kind of insanity that's going on in my life or uncomfortable feelings. So I start working with that part to say, I know your intent is really good, but the impact you're having on myself and my relationships is bad,
Mm.
is not going well. If I want to avoid bad language. So IFS helps me. How do I work with that part? So I integrate that into my whole system and have that have success through that.
Awesome. So yeah, I was sharing with you when we talked. I don't specifically, I guess, never had like a porn addiction but as a man, normally, I mean, I guess most men we kind of get, go towards that. Occasionally, delving in that, but it wasn't IFS or anything like that. It's just that I kind of saw it in couple of podcasts how it affects the brain, and then I decided like, okay, that makes sense. All right. I'm done watching any, videos or anything. Doesn't matter. Even if I do it was doing it maybe once every few weeks, but it doesn't matter. That kind of screws with the mind on the expectation you have of people. Just
Yeah,
besides AFS, just for everybody else, that's an important, as a man, it's an important thing to understand. I mean, women mostly are not that way, but if you're a woman doing that, potentially you should also think about that. But it is very, very important. It's one of the things, it's an epidemic. It's not a joke. It's
Yeah, with the
especially once.
uh, my life was I started getting out of it just as internet started coming in. So I was leaving that as internet was coming in. So that's what ups
Yeah.
the addictive part of that. So, and if you want to describe, like, define addiction, if people are wondering, like, is this a problem for me? Like anything that I keep doing compulsively, regardless of the harm it does to myself or my relationships, that's when you can start thinking maybe this is an addiction. Like what we say in our 12-step groups would be, I can stop. I've stopped lots of times. I just can't stay stopped.
Mm,
So if I can't stay stopped, that's when I can think like, okay, this is causing problems.
mm,
Because it's internet introduces it all over the place. It's why the numbers of women that are would might be considered addictive are going up, just because it's so easy to access. It can be free, it's anonymous, it's available, so all of those things make it easy to access.
yeah.
But generally, like the high numbers are higher for men, and it causes problems. Just like you said, it affects your thinking, it affects our relationships with each other because there's a false reality there.
It is. I
Again,
mean, we're not digging into further, but we'll get into the how IFS helps with that, how you help people with that. But there's a short story, a friend of mine, he's older guy, but he's in a church and young girl, wanting to get married, date and all. And she kind of shared the story with him, which kind of shocked me, was that she went on a date and then they were on a dinner and then she goes for a restroom and comes back and like walking, I guess, behind the guy to confront. But then what is the guy doing? Watching at the restaurant, watching porn on his phone. It's like, come on, that's ridiculous. You're on a date.
yeah,
That's how bad it's become. So, and anyway, so let's dig into IFS, right? So personally, here's I personally have a sort of kind of understood personalities inside, and I posted this a long time ago on a video because I said I'm a Sybil because you know I have different ones that come out. That's what I've learned through meditation and all that stuff, that these thoughts that you be identify it's not, real if you truly look into it. But IFS goes way further, right? So kind of get into it, share that. Maybe I'll ask questions more to maybe people get into it. So
yeah.
kind of share the core. You already said bad parts and all that stuff, but kind of, I guess, give a high level view of IFS.
High level view of IFS. Yes, like that's probably the most common phrase you'll hear is parts. We'll hear parts of me. When you and then I'll also just add the caveat that for everyone listening, like do your research. Like this is a 40-year-old model started by Richard Schwartz. So in those 40 years, there's lots of different ways to look at this. And then in the past few years would be like even on the faith-based side, there's a faith-based way to look at that. So I'll introduce that in the sense that what you don't hear a lot of is that at the core of IFS would be the self, who I am at my most pure, my I would say who God created me to be. IFS would describe characteristics like that. It's when I'm calm and I'm curious and I'm creative and I'm clear thinking and I'm connected with other people. Those I could then say like the Christ-like C's of IFS. When I'm just at my best version of myself, that's who I am. However, everybody knows that there's like life is not uh, a bowl of cherries. There's pain that happens in life. So then the three parts, the three different version, like the three different types of parts in IFS would be an initial like pain that happens in our life that we knew like if I was going to be living in this pain all the time, I couldn't operate. In my head, like I picture like my fear would be I'd be on the ground in the fetal position, unable to function. So like I can't do that all the time. So if something hurt me, I don't know what to do with it. I have to what then they that type of part becomes an exile. I take that part and I exile that deep inside so that I can just live my normal life.
Mm.
So unless I know, and there's a process, unless I know how to process through that and heal that pain, that part gets shoved down.
Mhm.
So, so let's say I went to school. I was made fun of for the clothes that I wore. So that pain of either rejection or of shame, I shove that down. I need another part to help protect me from that. So I developed. There's two types now of protectors. There are the managers. So if I got made fun of for the way I looked, especially my clothes, I develop a manager that says, you're never going to be made fun of for that anymore. You are going to be fashion conscious, fashion forward, and you're always going to look good. No one's ever going to make fun of you for that again. So that's a part. That's a manager. It's going to manage our life to make sure that we always look good. We always get the right clothes. So that's one type of protector. So we have exiles, we have managers. Another protector is developed is a firefighter.
Mhm.
Firefighters then come up when they think that, oh, the manager's not doing their job and we're about to get made fun of again, or we were made fun of and I don't want to feel that pain. A firefighter just goes for the quick pain reliever.
Mhm.
That's when you start doing things like, oh, I got made fun of, so I'm just going to go eat some ice cream, or I'm going to go disappear on the internet, what people call doom scrolling. I'm just going to get lost on the internet, or work out, or how I'm just going to escape somehow, just so I don't feel that anymore. So just to bounce back to what we were talking about with addiction, I think my personal theory, um, I'm aware of this is not really published anywhere, but like I think those firefighters that come in. So let's say, like for my story, like I go to pornography so I don't feel that shame anymore. That I use that pornography as a firefighter to escape. When I start using that so many times, go to that firefighter, it then becomes a manager, and that's when there's addiction. So any type of feeling, so like food, sex, pornography, work, alcohol, drugs, those firefighters then become managers. That's an addiction. So we
Mhm.
have those three things going on. Mostly in our life, we're living through like that part of us is the manager. How am I going to manage my day to day to be on time, to be a good employee, to be a good family member? Those are our managers. And we can see when the big test when we see like we're not acting as our true self, like who we are,
Mhm.
is when we start acting a way that we didn't but it's not characteristic of us. Like, oh, I don't usually act like that. Like, or that was a very strange reaction. And something comes up in me to protect me from being hurt.
Mhm.
But the classic thing about parts would be that we use in our natural everyday language would be the weekend comes up and part of me wants to stay home and get popcorn and watch a movie. Another part of me wants to go get with my friends and go have a good time. Like, so what part do I listen to?
Mhm.
Those are two different parts that come up that both have good intentions. And so we just have to decide what parts we start listening to.
Awesome.
There's an overview.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, no, that's a great point of view. Which is basically, I think some people get confronted because the book after I read the one you're the one you're looking for, waiting for, I recommended to a friend of mine. She's in a relationship, going through some things and like recommended, several things, but I said this is the best one. And one of the things she was confronted with was the parts part. I said, hey, don't look at it that way, and then I said, recommended go listen to the IFS, the whole introduction to IFS, which really Dr. Swartz goes into in depth and goes into his journey about meditation and the whole soul. Eye of the actually, without reading it, I actually use the word eye of the storm because we have storm going on. There's an eye in the middle. It's peaceful, but we just don't know that exists, right? So anyway,
Yes,
so
because that's true. Because the goal of IFS is to have yourself be in charge.
right.
So for the faith-based people, it'd be like I'm listening to God all the time.
Mm,
I'm being informed on how to act, and I integrate all those parts. Myself is the one that's going to decide
mm,
which parts I listen to.
mm,
But hey, to validate the parts of the feelings that they're having, and so my goal is to be self-led
mm.
um, on a constant basis.
Awesome. Yeah, no, that's another word that I really love, the self leadership. part about IFS. So let's get into, what you do, right, with someone. Like, okay, first give the profile of the person. If, somebody who's listening, they don't know if they are that type, but kind of give the profile of the people you help and how you help them. Obviously,
Yep.
both faith and also IFS, both aspects you use. I guess kind of walk through a little bit, on how you help.
Yeah, and it probably helped like with like that's what I thought it'd be fun talking to you about like the mind shift is that let's say like I guess a typical person is a person that's I'm frustrated at a behavior that I don't really like
Mm-hmm.
continues to happen and it's really um, blocking me or just is causing problems because I it is something happens that I don't like. I was thinking about the just like the what you and I started talking about. We said we wanted to wait to hear is a person, corporate person, IT person that uh, he's trying to decide between do I stick with my 9 to 5 job and doing what I'm gifted and trained to do, or do I launch a business on my own and go into the entrepreneur side? And I really have part of me that's really wants to do that. And I see the success that people have. Or do I play it safe and stay with, I know I'll be a valued employee and I'll make X amount of dollars. And I can count on that. But I also have this big part of me that says, I can also start my own business. So, but he keeps kind of coming up with blocks about why he can't launch on his own. So as we talk about the parts that say, so we just focus on like we set aside that first become aware that there's both of those parts are there. I can play it safe, or I can take a leap of faith and jump out on my own. Um, so the awareness and then validate that both of those parts are there because I don't want to say like shut down. Don't listen to that part that wants to play it safe. Go do that. So we have to, and we don't want to shut down the don't take a leap of faith either because that's just too dangerous and you might lose everything. You just focus on one particular part. Let's say that part, and then you do that just like you're having well, it's not multiple personalities, but it is a line of thought that I'm going to chase down. Validate that it's there, and then I take that part and just get to know that part to say, what would you like? What did you want to do? What are your dreams? Just get to know that part,
Mm.
and then say if there's any fears associated with that part. So once we get so I'll just skip a lot of the conversation that could take 3 or 4 sessions about getting to know it. It depends on the person and how open they are. But we get to like one of the blocks of that is that when that person was growing up, he was incredibly smart, but
Mm.
he came from working class parents who are also smart, but they didn't have the they didn't go and follow the trajectory of a college educated and master's degree for this person, like for IT engineering. But when he was growing up, he was told you can't just rely on your brains. You got to put the work into it.
Mm.
Like the intent of his parents were, they give him a message of don't feel so puffed up about yourself that you forget about that you had to put hard work into this.
Mm.
They're trying to prepare him not to be disappointed. Well,
Right.
he took the message that like don't be too arrogant or don't think too much of yourself. Stay in the working class. Like
Mm.
make sure you're doing hard work. In which he took as don't just use your brains. You had to be putting in hours of work as well.
Mm.
So once we identify that part, that's a big aha moment for him.
Mm.
We go through a process of taking those messages, the wrong messages that he took that he wants to get rid of. Like we get rid of those messages and replace those with messages that I am capable, I do have training, I can do the research about starting my own business so that's as safe um, bet as possible. And so that his self can then make a decision about, I know you're there, you want to make a leap of faith. And I also know that this other part of me wants to play it safe. How can we work those two parts together to
Mm.
to know that we can make this decision based on wisdom? and not just impulse of a part taking over.
Awesome. That's a
Uh,
great yeah, no, that's a great example. As I've read the book and now started looking into my own things, right? Although I knew those existed, it's funny asking those, we're going deeper into those. Um, which I know if you talk to Chris, he'll help you go through that process. But if you have done some meditation, you actually looked at the thoughts, maybe it'll be easier for you. Meditation, prayer, whatever,
yes.
there's so many
Yep.
different ways to do this. It's not like don't think that you got to sit and do Om, that's not the point. Uh,
Yes. I think like that's what I do think people who are self-aware that they know that there's a variety of thoughts going on within them and they need to be like they get and then another big word that I like for IFS is getting curious. That
mm,
I could be curious about those parts of me.
mm,
So one big check, right? When we in our sessions, that's if someone will brings up, well, there's this part of me that thinks I should just play it safe, just stick within my lane and stick with what I know.
mm,
I'll say, how do you feel towards that part?
mm,
And if they think I'm just sick of that part, want to play it safe all the time. Well,
mm,
if then I take that part and I hold it up against the template of, is that calm, compassionate, curious, creative, clear thinking? No, it's judgmental, or
mm,
it might be anxious. Well, that's another part,
mm,
trying to protect the system from that part. So you just start mapping out these parts that pop up. It's just so it's fascinating. The nice thing about it too is everybody's different.
right.
There's no template to go through. It's just whatever your internal system has created as it's gone through life.
Awesome.
So it's
Well,
a great adventure.
yeah, it is. I mean, yeah, it's fascinating, I think, personally. Um, well, with that, before I get into last three questions, could you just kind of give you the people you best help, the type of people you kind of essentially help? That way, if there's somebody listening that they are essentially that type can reach out to you, see if there's a potential for them to help by you.
Sure, I love working with like the soft-hearted, curious, self-aware people that are frustrated with a part that keeps behaving this a particular way. Um, like I'm trying to go someplace in my life. I like saying like I help people remove the roadblocks. Now
Mm,
that I have IFS, I'll change that to I'll start integrating my parts to work with all of the parts of me.
mm,
But they're frustrated at a behavior keeps coming up and they can't seem to stop it.
mm,
Sure, that would fit with like porn addiction.
mm,
Probably my most experienced porn addiction, but that could be like anxiety or I keep having strong emotions in a particular, I get triggered by particular emotions. Those people that want to be curious to say, okay, I want to know what's going on and how do I change that?
mm,
So those are the curious people that are ready for a deeper look at themselves and
mm.
ready to learn how do I work with that to move on from that.
Awesome. That's a critical point because there's several things I did before. One of the things was landmark. When I went through, I don't know if you're familiar with it, but that's one of the things, we and they talk about is, hey, we know what we know and we know what we don't know. But the problems that happen to us is the things we don't know. So that's kind of what
Yes.
essentially, what Chris was saying is like, I mean, if you're aware and like, hey, you need to stop, or you need to do something, but you don't want to do it, you don't know why, then that's what Chris is saying. Maybe he can help there, figure out what,
The biggest benefit from people is just the validation that all parts are welcome.
yeah.
That I don't have to shut down this particular way of thinking. All
Mhm.
I have to do is get to know it, and
Yeah.
I can see the relief on people's faces when they think, oh, that part's trying to work with me. Oh,
Mhm.
it's trying to protect me. Okay, we just need to redirect that, and that's the mind shift.
Mhm.
So, like, just to work with that part, it ends a lot of, even on the shame part of it, say, like, it ends a lot of the frustration of trying to do that personal work.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of relief and peace in, oh, I can work with all these parts and those parts can work together. That's great to see.
Awesome. No, that's an excellent point because one of the things I was listening to Dr. Schwartz about IFS, and he quoted Thich Nhat Hanh. I forgot. I can't say his name, but he was talking about how he was talking about like the person, he was going into horrible scenarios, but basically, hey, the person who's being raped is me, and the person who's raping is me, all is me. That means there's no, there's a person, doing whatever evil or something bad they're doing is, it's not inherently there, it's somehow created. So anyway, that's we can get into that whole topic long,
Yeah.
but that's the whole point of what Chris was saying, I think, is basically that, right? Hey, you don't have to hide from it, or you can embrace it. Once you embrace it, it goes away, because I've experienced that many times in different
Hmm.
contexts. Once you embrace the emotions, whatever, then they go away. If the more you resist, they will persist. That's the number one.
Yes, that's very true. And they might not go away. They might just have a different job.
Exactly. They come up with a different way. Yeah,
Yes. And
they'll
they
come.
learn how to, yeah, it's again, intent versus impact
Yep.
will change the impact. So that's a positive thing.
Awesome. All right. Well, we'll get into the last three questions since we're kind of running out of time. Hey, we might have another discussion another time. But last three questions. What is the best book you read that you recommend everybody else reading?
For
Yeah,
this
different book.
topic, it would be like Altogether You, Jenna Riemersma. Altogether You would be a faith-based perspective on parts.
Okay.
How do I integrate my faith with this talk about parts?
Got you. All together.
So, yeah. And then uh, there was a follow-up to Altogether Us, which is just different aspects of IFS coming in
Mhm.
to about. Then you get into like legacy burdens and anxiety, and just you have different authors contributing their perspectives on IFS. But
Got
Altogether You would be faith-based.
Okay, gotcha. Awesome. All right. What inspires you to get up and do what you do every day?
Then I get to know people. I just have this love of fascination, curiosity about what makes people tick. So that I get to meet new people, and into my sessions where it's like, what part wants to have something to say today? Always an adventure.
All right. Yeah, no, that's fascinating. Yeah, definitely. Awesome. Well, last but not the least, what's the one tip that lately that has helped you that can help others?
It would be stay curious,
Hmm.
curious about what's going on inside. Don't try and shut it down. Get curious about getting to know that part of you, and see what that part needs.
Awesome. Yeah.
Um,
Go ahead. Sorry.
so I guess, and maybe I would say stay curious with others.
Hmm.
Don't try and do this by yourself. Like try and find someone that's for you, that's a safe person that's for you and is going to help you on your journey.
Awesome. That's a great tip. Yeah, I was going to mention one thing, when you were talking about the IFS, it's like changing things or whatever. What I've learned is there's no such thing as self-improvement. The thing to know is self-discovery. Once you know what it is, then you make a choice of choosing what you need to change. And that's all it is. It's all the self-improvement I've learned now is nonsense. It's about not knowing what's stopping you, then or wanting whatever you're doing. Once you understand why you're doing, then yeah, you make a choice. And that's all
Yes,
it.
that's right.
Yeah, so the IFS will help a lot in that. All right.
Yeah.
Thanks, Chris. And I'll be posting whatever Chris contact info, whatever he shares with me with the videos
Yes.
and so. So reach out to him, and obviously through LinkedIn, as he mentioned, probably the easiest way to connect with him.
Yeah.
Thanks again, Chris. Thanks for taking the
You're
time.
welcome. Thank you. Talk to you later.